Hi, it's Dr. Myers, and this is a video to help you if you're not sure how to use Excel for modeling or you're just having a trouble getting started with the project. So I assume you have all the information for the project elsewhere and you don't need to see me showing it here, but I'm going to add to this until I have a good enough thing where you can take it from here. So everything you see on the screen, I have typed in. The only exception is the uh, line 6, 7, and 8, I actually typed in Word and cut and paste them. And A6, A7, A8 was one cut and paste, and B6, 7, and 8 was another cut and paste. And the reason I did that is I can figure out no way to do a exponent in superscript or subscript in Excel. And I've looked. So you can do that in PowerPoint, you can do it in Word. So it makes no sense that you can't do it in Excel, but nevertheless, the only way to show you what the functions are is to actually just bring them in. Now I'm given the mathematical functions there, and in line 3, I'm reminding myself what the original numbers are, A, B, C, and D, and I've set it up so that cell E, and all I've done there is or column E, is all I've done there is shade it with a blue so that I can make the statement in line 4 that says you can change the blue areas. So I intend to use the blue areas as the coefficients from the problem, the original problem, and I note right away that I have a issue because the original number is not 20 there, it's 30. So I changed that. So like I say, everything is just copied directly. Uh, there's no calculations or mathematics at this point. So I have typed some more in here, and it doesn't look very good yet, but again, I haven't done any formulas or any kind of calculation yet, but I use this row right here and just typed in the headings that I want to put in my table, and I'm going to center those up, and I'm going to center my labor numbers here. Remember, the assignment says number, I believe it was labor from 0 to 18. So I think you may know this, but you can actually highlight that, grab the corner and drag it down to 18, which would be right there, and that'll take care of that. And then as you look across, you'll see that this term and this one don't really have enough room in the block. So of course we can do a couple things. We could make the heading smaller, or we could just change the size of the uh, width of the column, and I think I'll do that. Okay, so here's where we kind of start what we have. Make that a capital MP, MP for marginal product. Oh, I have my cap locks on. That's why that worked that way. So now I'm ready to start programming it in, and let me get started on that. So first off, capital is going to be 5. And when I say, I could just type 5s here, but then I don't have the flexibility to do a simulation. Remember, our goal is to do modeling. So one thing we ought to be able to do is change any number in the blue, and every number recalculates and our graphs move. So here we're going to do the in K, I'm going to just put an equal sign. And now that I have an equal sign, I can go up and click on the cell, which is number 5. And if I pressed enter, that cell would always refer to number 5. But what I'm going to do is now do an F4, and notice I now have a $H $8. I hope you know what that does is it locks the reference to the cell, and the beauty here, enter that, center it. The beauty here is when I now drag this all the way down to 18, they're all 5s, and if I pick any one at random and look up here where I'm circling with the cursor, you see $H $. 8, which is right there. Okay, so I got my K. Q is a little more dicey, right? Because we got a little bit more to do here. We have to use the whole function. And what I want to do is to do BL plus CL squared plus DL cubed. And B is going to be 30. So I will start there. I'll press my equal sign. I'll go up and click on 30. But that number has to be locked in. So again, F4. And I want B times L. So I will use the times sign. And I will go over to the L on the same row, which is the 0 level there. And that's B times L. Now, I may want to copy this someplace else. So I might want to lock down the column, but not the cell reference, because when I drag it, if I drag down, then it's all going to be okay. But if I go side to side, it might not. So I am, for the moment, not going to lock in the B column, but if I did, and I will do at least on the first one, is I'll hit my F4, turns out 3 times, and now I got $B and 11. 11 is going to change cell by cell. The B is not. But I'm not done. I have BL plus, so let's put a plus sign in there, yeah, in our formula. And what did I do? I did a bad thing. I had that highlighted. So I got to go back. So there's BL plus. And like I said, I'm not going to lock that one down. Then I want to go to C, which is there, and an F4, which is going to lock that down, multiplying L squared. So I'm going to go over to L. Now this is 0, but remember I'm going to drag this down and have it refer to everything. So to do a square, I'm going to use the Shift 6 key, that is the caret, like that, and a 2. That means that's going to take the B to the power, B11 to the power 2. So I've got my first two terms of Q. So now I need a plus D, but here's plus, and D actually carries the minus sign. So that's the minus 1 times L squared, or L cubed. So here's the time. I got to go back and lock the E. So you can always go over top of it like that. And then I'm going to, I have my times, I'm going to go over to L, Shift 6, the caret, and 3. So if I do that, well, it comes up 0. Why? Because all the terms L are 0. But let's drag it down a couple of notches there. And I'm looking at my finish sheet, and those are exactly the right numbers, I think. Okay, so, and that's with a 30, right? So if I want to go back and make this number a 20, B, you want B to be 20, notice that I'll type it in, press enter, watch the numbers on the Q, they've all recalculated. So I can change the parameterization of this cost function as long as I stay in the mathematical world of a cubic function. That's what we're going to do here. So give me a moment and I will, sorry about that, I cut off a word. But if you look at the, made a few changes here. One is I took the AP column, and where you see 39, I just did Q divided by L, very simple formula, and I couldn't do it for 0. But here you see I'm entering the math expression for the average product, just like we did with the total product, and that's there in line 7, which is B plus CL plus DL squared. And if I did that right, I can press enter now. A second. So I just realized I left the video running. If I can edit that out, I will. Otherwise, sorry for all the minutes. And you can see where I have the formula already tucked in. And one of the nice things when you click on a formula, and you may well know this, but everything is color coded. So there's a box now that's blue. Well, it was blue background anyway, but it's outlined in blue, which is the 20. Here's the box that's red, outlined in red. That's the other 20, that is C. And so that can really help you with your formulations. You can also move these boxes. If suddenly I look down and one of the boxes is on K and it should have been on L, I can just move it over. But anyway, hitting enter, center it up, and pull it down. And I'm almost done with my table. Now, there's a couple things I want to say here, just from a beauty point of view. I did center all my numbers, so they read a lot better, and my labels are centered. But I'm not very satisfied with that. So I'm going to go up here to View, and I'm going to uncheck grid lines. And to me, that just makes a world of difference. If I'm setting this up in a way that I can read it and enjoy it the way it looks, I don't need all those grid lines there. And you have the references to the grid lines anyway. It really is no big issue. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and I'm going to put some kind of a box or heading or something here. So for instance, I might do a double line bottom border and a top border. So now my table has a little bit of design to it, and I may decide that I want to actually, over the whole table, do all the borders. Well, what they do is I just took away my double line here, so I can come back and I can throw that in. And again, I got my double line under the top. I might want to do something like this, pick a color that is good for background, and maybe even bold the letters. So there's ways you can make your chart look a whole lot better too, and it improves the readability. Now, I do need to show you a calculation for the MP change, and here's kind of the way this breaks down. So marginal product is the change in total output over the change in labor. So this one right here could easily be, we'll use some parentheses here to take our value on the same line, 39, minus, where did we come from? The previous line is 0. Close off that parentheses, divide, and now I'm going to divide it by the change in labor, so that would be 1 minus 0. Close off that parentheses, and you can see I got a change over a change. Press enter, and I get a divisor error. What did I do wrong? Oh, I used an equal instead of a minus sign. There we go. So I get 39, and that's equal to my average product, but it's not equal to my marginal product. In fact, if I drag this down a little bit, that was moving it, drag it down a little bit, you'll see all the numbers are off. They don't look good at all. And this is really why we talk about the derivatives. The derivatives, which actually leads us to these numbers, which are accurate, are not matched by going from 0 to 1 and then putting the number over here. What we have to do is something that's more like a midpoint. So let me take this out. We are on line 1. We're looking for the change in output. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go one more. Up here we are. Output for labor equal 2 minus output for labor equals 0. See, I'm going right around the 1 point. This should look like the midpoint elasticity formula, and we're doing it for exactly the same reason. We're going to try to emulate the actual calculus derivative. So now we're going to divide by, I'm going to go over here, I'll need some parentheses, 2 minus 0, again going right around the value that I'm looking for, which is number 1. I'm going to press enter, and I get 56. It's a whole lot closer. Now, it's not going to be perfect just simply because we're dealing with a continuous function, and it's not designed to react well to whole numbers like L equal 1, 0. It's a continuous function. But let's see how good it does. So we'll drag this down now. And we have to take out the last number. Why? Because there is no line at 18. So it's actually picking up zeros and it's calculating that wrong. So we're going to delete that. And if you look across, we're dead on. We're just 1 point off. And if we would go to decimals here, we might find that it's all solved in rounding error. It's pretty small. But nevertheless, we're really, really close in every case. That's what you need to be doing for here. So the next thing's draw graph. So I've rescaled it so I've got some room to put a graph on the same page. And you can see the whole table, and you see the setup, and well, at least to me it looks pretty good. I can see a couple, for me, I'm a symmetry guy, I can see a few things I'd like to change, but too much trouble. This is readable, it works. So what do I want to do at this point is to, well, let's think about the assignment. This table that you're supposed to do is supposed to be in not sheet 1. So I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to put tab 1, because that was actually what you were supposed to call it. So now we're good. And if I add another new sheet, it's blank, but I'll just go ahead and call it tab 2, because that's where we have to head. Now, we need to do a graph, and we want to graph according to labor as our horizontal axis. So I'm going to grab the rest of the table, because if I grab labor, it's just going to put it as a graph to that it wants to put up there. And I'm going to grab them all because they're not in order, so that I can grab just the two together or something like that. And I'm going to go up and find an insert, and here's the kind of graph I want over here. I want a line chart. And as I go through all this, you can see how it changes. Here's the very first one that I'm going to take. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to make it big enough to work with here. Then once we get it all set, we'll be okay. And everything's graphed, and it looks pretty bad. It doesn't stand out the way it ought to, and I need to make some changes, right? So let's do that. So I'm going in here, and this plus right here allows you to let me move the graph, make it a little bit smaller, then the menu will actually come out on that side. There you go. So some of the things I may not want is, I may not want the vertical axes. Maybe I keep it. I could do that. I'm going to keep the chart title, but you know what? I'm going to take the grid lines off. Again, look at the cleanness of this. And because of what we're trying to show, I don't need those grid lines, because those numbers don't really matter as much as the overall shape and the way this is going to work. I also am going to, I'm going to leave that. All right, so those are things I can do. Here I can change style, but we're going to be all right with that. But if I do click on it, it's going to give me some predefined styles that I can pick. Frankly, most of them are pretty ugly. So I'll turn that off. And then this one is a filter on which series I want to graph. Well, the first chart I want to do is I want to do total product. So that's Q. So I'm going to unselect them all and just select Q. And I can go over here and take a look at names and see things are pretty good there. I'll leave that. But here's my problem. These are in order by number, not by labor. So we got to change that. So I'm going to apply this, and you'll see that the only graph that remains will be the total product curve. There we go. And we're going to close this filter and take advantage of doing the rest. So we have only the total product curve, but I'm going to right click inside of here, and I'm going to go down and select data. Now I could have done the selection of what I want to graph right here, and I could still put something else back on the picture, but this is what I want to get rid of over here. This is automatically generated, and I don't want it. So it says the axis label range. Now we know we picked on the horizontal axis, so it doesn't tell us that, but that's what it is. And I can either type it in, or the better way is to hit this button right here and go over and start with 0. It's very important that you graph with exactly the same place. Hit the button again, say OK, say OK, and now if you look at the bottom, it starts at 0. So I changed the heading, and I shrunk it down, moved it around, got rid of the legend, and you know, it looks pretty good now. And maybe I should put labor down there as the axis designation, so I can do an axis title. Come over here and say, how about a primary horizontal? Go down and click in the axis title here and just put labor. So now we know exactly what our axis is, and it's pretty readable, right? But here's the cool thing. You want to graph some more? We've already got all the data in there. So I'm going to, it's a little tricky. You got to click on the outside line so that you've got the whole thing there. Make sure your cursor looks like it does right now, not like that. Right here, click right and copy. Okay, so it just copied and put it right over top. So now I'm going to stick it here, but I'm going to make it bigger because there's more action going to be going on here. And I don't want the total product curve anymore. So I'm going to go in here and select data, and I'm going to take Q off. But what I want to do is I want to do the average product curve. And we use the math one. You know, they're exactly the same, the two average products. And I'm going to use the math one for the marginal product because I know these are highly accurate and they'll give me a good looking picture. So I do still have labor over here on the horizontal axis, so we're good there. And press enter. And there's my total product curves. Whoa, it does say total product. So let's fix that. And make this average and marginal product curves. And if I don't do say so myself, that looks fairly textbook oriented. Now, one of the things you're going to discover is this tail here for marginal product is going to get in our way. We're never going to produce when marginal product is 0, never. And because of that, one of the things I can do in here is I can come in and say, I want to get rid of all the labor, and I'm looking where the intersection is. I want to get rid of all the labor from 16 up. All right, just and maybe you need a different edit for different graphs because it could go wild at the extreme. And it cuts it down. I still get the pleasure of seeing marginal product go negative and average product not, but I'm pretty good on that. So where's the simulation in this? Well, there's not a lot of interesting simulation we can do here. But remember, we've had this as 30 and we've had it as 20. What if we go back to 30? They shift. What if we take the 20 and go to 50? Wow, something really changed. What was it? Now we can go down and we can look in our marginal product and we can see, you know what? It's never gone negative. Because that 50 is there, marginal product is still going to top out and decline, but we haven't got anywhere close to that. So obviously 50 is too big a number. What about a 10? Okay. And then, let's maybe go back to 20 here and let's try D as a -2. What happens? All right, really severe change. Why? All the diminishing returns is being driven by that number back there. So how about minus 0.0 or 0.5? It's gone up. Again, marginal product has not yet reached a tipping point. Your total product actually is still increasing as an increasing rate, hasn't tipped over. So basically what we've done is we've changed it and we've made it out of bounds. We'd have to have a whole lot more labor to actually get to see the picture. So we go back to our original numbers or something close to them, and we have our textbook finish. I'm going to show you one more thing. I am done. You've got to do the rest on your own. So I ask you to go to tab 2 and copy the table over. Now you can copy it like, highlight the whole thing and copy it. But here's what I want to recommend. I am going to do that, okay? But that's not all I'm going to do. I'm also going to keep it in the same spot, so that would be B10 for the first cell. I'm going to copy it. I just press Control C, go to tab 2. So B10 is right here, and I'm going to press Enter. And everything went 0. It didn't copy. The only way I'm going to get those numbers if I copy them as values, and then I lose all the value of simulation. So what do I mean by that? All right, so here's what I want to do. I want to go to this first cell, press equal, go down and click on tab 1, and go up here and hit the cell B11, the first and the same point. So now I've got a 0 here, but it's different. Look in the line, it says it's tab 1 B11, and we're in tab 2. So now all I have to do is drag that to spread it throughout. And before I let go of that one right there, I can take it all the way across. And there's the same table from the other page. What cleanup do I need to do? It's going to put zeros where I had blanks. So now I've got blanks again. And down here a 0 where I had a blank at the bottom of MP change. And the only thing left is to start making the table readable, pretty, and ready to go. But why do I say do this? Because the next step is going to be like calculating the cost curves. So I need wages. So I might go up here and say wage, and these are annual numbers, by the way. So I'm going to say, $20,000 a year for my workers. And I'm going to do the same thing for my capital. And then I'm going to come over here and say total variable cost. What is total variable cost? Well, I'm going to put the formula right here. W times L. Or I could just say WL. So let's do that. Equal sign, W, lock it down, F4, times L. Press enter, center it up because I'm just like that, drag it down, and there's my total variable cost. So I want to change, or graph rather, this whole thing, but this time I want to graph by Q. So that's going to be my horizontal axis. So I'm going to take everything from here over, and you'll have many other rows here for your tab 2 assignment. Whoop, I didn't do what I wanted to do. Let's try it again. Here we go. Insert, same kind of line graph. And here's my total variable cost. it's standing out, but other things don't look so good because they're on a different kind of a deal. So if I wanted to do average variable cost, I could include it or whatever. But what I want you to notice is just the size of this curve. We're going to go back to the other screen, and we're going to pick something like that -2, and we're going to come back over, and we're going to see that this screen didn't change. We don't have any cost in here. This is all productivity, except for that cost curve, and it's a function there. But what I'm trying to tell you is that curve is updating from this table, which is related to this table. So as you change things in blue, so you may do that, like going back over here and making wage a blue number. So you have a nice consistent table. It's a darker blue than we were using. Here we go. So any number in blue could be changed, and we could see what happens. So if they're making $40,000, we get a new chart. The numbers change, the slope didn't. Have fun. Complete the whole thing, and you will be able to change workers on one screen and look at profitability on the other, and that's what we're going to be talking about.